I'm back with my North Carolina trip. This will be part number 5. I've written some notes so that I don't leave out anything important. Um, we had now uh, been in North Carolina for 2 complete days, is where I'm taking up here. And I, I pray that as I'm telling you these stories that God did, the amazing things, that you are realizing that God is in the details. He's always in the details. He's not just some God sitting up there taking care of the whole world without knowing every detail of what's going on in your life. He cares about you. He loves you. He wants to be in the details of your life. So if you don't know him, you need to get to know him today. So I pray that you do that. Recently, I did preach a message in Oklahoma called God's in the Details, just last Sunday, in fact. And so remember that God is always in your details of your life. So here we are. It's the 3rd day. And every morning when we would get up, we would go over to the church offices across the street from the lodge, and we would have at 9 a.m. and we would have, everyone would meet there, and we would have a worship song or two. We would pray, talk about the day, what we were going to do, and then they would break us up into teams and send us out to work. And so, and we were there about 2 weeks. So this particular morning, the 3rd morning, I was getting ready to leave with 3 guys, Alan, Robert, and Sam. Sam was our team leader. And we had just had a breakfast outside the church offices there also. And as I was getting ready to leave, a lady came out of the church offices and she said, "Wanda, where's Wanda?" Well, obviously she didn't know me. And so anyway, I said, "Well, that's me." So I went over to her and she said, "Wanda, the Lord told me to give you something, and he told me to tell you to pray about who you are to give this to." And I said, "Okay." And so she counted me out 6 $100 bills. And I'm like, "Okay." And she said, "Now, the Lord said for you to ask Holy Spirit who you are to give these $100 bills to while you're here working over the next few weeks." And I'm like, "Okay." So I stuffed them into my fanny pack and got in the truck with Alan and Sam and Robert, and off we went. And our assignment that particular day was to go to Lansing, North Carolina. As we were traveling every day, we saw the devastation. We saw the devastation that was there. And it was very emotional because those poor people had really suffered. I mean, there were entire towns gone that were wiped away by mud and water. And as I traveled and looked at all those things, cars upside down in rivers and just devastation everywhere, I felt kind of guilty because I was staying in a lodge, having hot showers every day, having hot meals every day. And I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. But it's really sad to see people suffer. And so anyway, I would feel kind of guilty because, you know, I was in a lodge having hot showers, having hot meals, and some of these people didn't have anything. Some of them didn't have anything but the clothes on their back. So several days I traveled with Alan, Sam, and Robert. Sam was our team leader. He was awesome. They were all 3 awesome. But let me just say, Sam was an awesome team leader. And so we were working under the Antioch Church in Boone, North Carolina, and with the Acts of Mercy International. On Tuesday, October the 8th, this was our 3rd day there, when we headed to Lansing, North Carolina, we were looking to meet Phil and Karen. You remember the 2 people I met in the lodge that had lost their home. He's the one that had shown me the video of his neighbor's house going down the river. And so we went to meet with Phil and Karen at their house, which had extensive damage. They had a lot of mud and water in their basement for sure. And while the guys were there talking to them, I decided I would just venture down the road, and I saw an older man outside about, I don't know, maybe 75 yards down the river, or up the river, I should say. And his name was Coog. He was 76 years old. He's the one that Phil had told me that had lost his house down the river. And sure enough, if you watch the video that I've posted on YouTube, you will see Phil and Karen's brick home, and then you'll see Coog's house in the river turned around backwards. But anyway, I went up the road and stopped and talked to Coog, who was out there with his two daughters. They were Christians. They knew the Lord. And one of the things that the Antioch Church and Acts of Mercy had encouraged us to do was to let the people tell their stories, tell what happened that fretful day that they lost things, lost their homes. And so Coog, bless his heart, he could hardly stand there, but we were standing there by where his home used to be. And I was talking to him and his two daughters, and I said, Coog, tell me your story. Tell me what you experienced the day you lost your home. Well, Coog told me that he had recently put his wife in a nursing home like 2 weeks before, and the daughters verified that, which was a good thing because his wife was an invalid and would have been in that house that went down the river and wouldn't have survived. So God was merciful. So Coog told me that he had went in the house and fed his little Chihuahua dogs and his cats and came back outside, and he remembered he needed something out of his truck. Now, his home was down here on the riverbed, and there was over about 20 yards was flat land, and then a steep embankment went up, and there was a road up there, and then a mountain, and his truck was parked up there on the road. So he said he fed and watered the cats and dogs and went up the hill, which was probably about a 20 or 30 foot embankment up. He went up there to get something out of his truck. He said while he was digging around in his truck for whatever he was looking for, he heard a loud noise. He thought maybe it was a tornado, but as he turned around and looked towards the river, he saw about a 40-foot wall of water and mud coming down the creek bed. And it took his house down the creek bed about 20 or 30 yards, down close to Phil's house, turned it around completely, and most of it collapsed in the river. And he was crying about his little dogs and cats. But Coog was optimistic. He said that he was going to rebuild again, and that he was going to build on the other side of the river. So his daughters both told me that it was a miracle Coog made it away from there, because one of the daughters lived on the other side of the mountain and heard the water and the mud and immediately thought about her daddy and went out to try to go get to him, but she had 2 or 3 feet of water out in her yard, so she couldn't even drive to him. But then in just about an hour, here come Coog driving up to his daughter's house with water pouring out of the bottom of his truck. So it was a miracle he made it up to his daughter's house. And so after I spoke with Coog and his daughters, I went back down to meet with the guys who were speaking with Phil and Karen about their home. Now, Phil and Karen were both disabled, and they were really not realizing how much damage their house had and how much damage that was done to all their items, so we had to talk to them about that. Well, I went over to Karen, away from everybody, and asked her if she knew the Lord as her personal Savior. And she told me she did, but she said her husband she didn't believe did, Phil. So when I got an opportunity, I went and talked to Phil, asked him if he knew the Lord, would he like to receive the Lord. I told him how to receive the Lord, so I'm praying that Phil did that. Then I went out in the yard and met with his son and daughter-in-law and prayed a prayer with them, both of them, to be led to the Lord. So hopefully that was in their heart, and that happened. And so afterwards, we went back after we got some work that we knew we were going to do, and we did some work at another house after we met with Phil and Karen and Coog. We worked all day there in Lansing with a man named Benny. I forgot his wife's name, but we worked there at his home. He had mud in his basement and some damage. And we also did some more scouting there in Lansing to find some more people to help. And anyway, so when we got back to the church offices around 5 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock every day, we would give a report of how things went that day. And we would let everybody know, you know, what we did and what happened. And when we got through, I asked, there was probably 30 people in the room. I said, who gave me that $600 this morning? And I looked around the room and nobody claimed to have done it. And I said, well, somebody gave me $600 this morning. It was a lady with a red ball cap on and hair down the front here, dark hair. And I said, I want to be accountable to her. And so, is she here? Well, nobody knew who she was. Even as to the day when I left, nobody ever knew who that lady was. So I don't know who she was either. But every night I would ask when we went back to the offices to be accountable for the $600. Okay, so my time is running out now. I told you I was going to keep these meetings short because I've been told that if you keep them short, they do better. And so I'm going to keep it short. I want you to know that Cassie was working other places with other people, and Cassie actually laid some floors down. She had pictures she showed me of her laying down floors, so she was really working hard. But before I go, I want to show you my book again, Direct Line by Wanda Rogers. You will hear some amazing stories in this book. If you would like to purchase it, you can purchase it on Amazon. And also, I have my YouTube page, as you can obviously see, and it is Wanda D. Rogers, all one word, at Direct Line Ministries, all one word. Please, if you enjoy this video, if you would subscribe and like, I would appreciate it. Thank you until next week when we will have the next part of our North Carolina journey. I appreciate all of you listening, and y'all have a blessed day and a Merry Christmas. Done.